Hello, my name is Daniel Schindel, and I'd like to walk you through this dashboard I created in Tableau, showing some of the features of the international cricket matches from 2018. The first chart at the top left here, this large title gives instructions on how to use it. The first thing you need to know is that in cricket, you can either win by runs or you can win by wickets. So what I've done with this chart is I've taken the wins that each team had, broken it up by business quarter, and then if a team won by runs, I added up how many runs a team won by in that particular quarter. Now the neat thing about this chart is actually the chart beneath it. Currently it's showing the 3 matches where Pakistan won by runs in the third quarter of 2018. And then if I click here, that switches to showing the 3 matches where Afghanistan won by runs in the third quarter of 2018. And then if I go here, now it's showing the 4 matches where Ireland won by runs. Off to the right here, we can see that there were 7 matches where Ireland won in the first quarter of 2018. So 3 of those matches were won by wickets and not by runs. And then if you hover your mouse over, you can see how many runs each match was won by. Then back up to the top right here, you can see the home and away records for each team. From this drop-down menu, you can either select whether you want to see wins at home, losses at home, wins while away, or losses while away. One thing I'd like to point out here is that if you select the losses at home, we see a bunch fewer teams here. What's going on there is that not every team had any losses while at home. So if a team didn't have any losses on home ground, then they just don't show up in this chart of losses while at home. The last thing I put together here at the bottom right is a map of each team's wins. So if we zoom in on Africa, we can see that the 2 teams there were Zimbabwe and South Africa, having 9 and 5 wins, respectively. The south of Asia was another region that was fairly bunched up. If we zoom in, you can see all of these teams. The South Pacific is there. And Europe was another area that was fairly bunched up. You can see that there. And then in North America, the only team was the West Indies. Now, before I go into the technical details here, I'd like to point out that before starting this dashboard, I knew nothing at all about cricket. So whatever it is that your company does, I will be able to jump in, get up to speed, and show you something useful in relatively short order. So with that said, let's move over to the Tableau app so I can show you some of the details of how I was able to put this together. Now, you can't see it with my face in the way, but what I'm showing here is dashboard 5. So there was a lot of playing around and figuring out what I wanted to plot. But for today, I'm only going to talk about the 4 charts that went into the dashboard I'm actually linking you to. A couple of comments on the data model. The data source here was a single Excel file. Now when you do that, broadly speaking, you have 2 options. You can either have most of the calculations done in Excel and then use Tableau to make everything look nice, or you can leave most of the data unreduced in Excel and then have Tableau do most of the calculations within the workbook itself. In this dashboard, I did most of the calculations in Excel. So moving on to the sheet, to the chart at the top left. It's fairly straightforward here. In the columns, I have the match date split up by business quarter, and then in the rows, I'm adding up the runs margin victories. These 2 filters came from the dashboard action that lets us link these 2 charts together. And then this 3rd filter takes out the null results from the runs margins. What's going on is that if a team won by wickets, then Tableau registers, okay, that's a win, but we don't have any numbers for the runs margin since they didn't win by runs, they won by wickets. And so we just have null for the number of runs they won by. And if a team only won by wickets in a particular quarter, then Tableau has null plus null plus null for the sum of the runs margin victories, and then it just plots a big circle in this chart with a value of null, saying that we only have null for the total of the runs. So this filter allows us to only keep the times when a team won by runs. For this sheet, most of it's fairly similar to what was to the details I pointed out in the previous chart. The only thing I'd like to highlight for you is that the chart type here is the packed bubbles. For the chart at the top right in the dashboard, that's here, the main thing I'd like to highlight for you is that for this chart we used a parameter, or I used a parameter. What I did in Excel is I had 4 columns, one for which team won while away, which team won while it's home, which team lost while away, which team lost while at home, and then the parameter home, away, win, loss selects which of those 4 columns gets plotted, and then in the rows it says count of scorecard. The scorecard field just shows the ODI match number, so it's a handy way to count up how many teams appear, how many times each team appears in the column we've selected with our parameter. The last chart is the map of wins, and there were a number of complications here owing to the fact that while most teams are named after the country that they represent, that's not true of all of them. For example, with the West Indies, Tableau does not recognize the West Indies as a geographic region. So what I did is I had a separate column in Excel for the country where Tableau is going to put its dot, and a different column for the team names. And when you hover over the dot, you can see in this case the dot is placed on Jamaica and the team name is West Indies, and they had 8 wins. I picked Jamaica for the West Indies because it's centrally located for the countries that contribute players to that team. And also at the time of this recording, the team's coach is from Jamaica, so that works out. If we come over to Ireland, one complication there is that the Ireland team represents the island of Ireland and not just the country of Ireland. But as far as Tableau is concerned, Tableau can just put its dot on the country of Ireland and call it a day. So that's not a complication that Tableau has to worry about. With Scotland and England, however, it's another matter entirely. Tableau does not have a framework for countries embedded in another country, so Tableau has to be told that Scotland and England are province-level countries embedded within the country-level country of the United Kingdom. Also, Tableau does not like to plot separate geographic tiers on the same map. So what I did is I put 2 maps on this sheet, one showing Scotland and England within the UK all by itself, and another map showing all the other teams. And then here in the rows area, I used dual axis to show the 2 maps all together on the same map. And then lastly, one team that maybe should have created problems but didn't. For Hong Kong, Tableau is perfectly happy to represent Hong Kong as its own separate country. So I'd like to reiterate that before starting this project, I knew nothing at all about cricket. So whatever it is that your company does, I will be able to jump in and get up to speed and show you something useful in relatively short order. Also, I need to mention that if you're watching this video from my portfolio, links to this dashboard and a cleaned up version of the Excel file that went into this Tableau workbook are right there. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, links are in the description. With all that said, I'm excited to see what I can do for your company. I really enjoy learning new techniques and developing my skills, and several of the techniques on display today I had to dig for online. So really anything you put in front of me, I will be able to figure out. So Thanks for watching.